Welcome to our channel. In this video, we're taking you on a powerful journey through the major religions and belief systems of the world, from Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam, to Buddhism, Judaism, indigenous traditions, and even secular worldviews like atheism and agnosticism. Whether you're here to learn, explore different cultures, or simply expand your perspective, this series breaks it all down clearly and respectfully, in simple language with no fluff. If you find this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new video. We've got much more thoughtful educational content coming your way, so let's dive in. Hinduism. Hinduism is one of the world's oldest religions, with roots stretching back over 4,000 years. It's the third largest religion globally, practiced by over 1 billion people, mostly in India and Nepal. But Hinduism isn't just a religion. It's a way of life, a philosophy, and a cultural system. Unlike many major religions, it has no single founder, no single holy book, and no strict dogma. It's flexible, diverse, and deeply woven into the lives of its followers. History. Hinduism began in the Indus Valley Civilization around 2000 BCE. Over time, it absorbed and evolved through the Vedic period, when ancient texts called the Vedas were written. These early scriptures focused on rituals, sacrifices, and chants. Later, during the Upanishadic period, philosophical ideas about the self, the universe, and ultimate reality emerged. Hinduism also adapted over the centuries through interactions with Buddhism, Jainism, Islam, and British colonialism. Despite changes, it has kept many of its core beliefs and traditions alive through the millennia. Core beliefs. At the heart of Hinduism are a few key ideas. One is Dharma, which means duty, ethics, and living a life in balance. Then there's karma, the belief that every action has consequences, shaping our future lives. Hindus also believe in reincarnation, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, known as samsara. The ultimate goal is to achieve moksha, or liberation from this cycle, and unite with Brahman, the ultimate, formless reality. Hinduism teaches that truth is one, but it can be expressed in many ways. This idea allows room for multiple beliefs and practices within the same tradition. Major texts. Hinduism's sacred writings are vast. The oldest are the Vedas, written in Sanskrit, which include hymns and ritual instructions. Then come the Upanishads, which explore deep philosophical questions. Two of the most popular texts are epics, the Ramayana, the story of Prince Rama and his quest to rescue his wife Sita, and the Mahabharata, which includes the Bhagavad Gita, a spiritual conversation between the warrior Arjuna and the god Krishna. These texts offer guidance on how to live, make choices, and find spiritual meaning. Gods and deities. Hinduism has many gods and goddesses, each representing different aspects of the divine. But all are seen as expressions of one supreme reality, Brahman. Three of the most important deities are the Trimurti, Brahma, the creator Vishnu, the preserver Shiva, the destroyer and transformer. There are also goddesses like Lakshmi, goddess of wealth, Saraswati, goddess of knowledge, and Durga, a fierce protector. Many Hindus have personal deities they worship, which may differ from region to region or family to family. This flexibility is a key feature of the faith. Practices and rituals. Hindu practices vary widely, but often include puja, or worship at home or in temples. Puja involves offerings of flowers, food, and incense to deities, along with prayers and mantras. Daily rituals might include meditation, yoga, chanting, or reading scriptures. Life events, like birth, marriage, and death, are marked with specific religious ceremonies. Ahimsa, or nonviolence, is also a core practice for many Hindus, influencing diet. Many are vegetarian, and behavior. Festivals. Hindu festivals are colorful, joyful, and rich with meaning. The biggest and most widely known include Diwali, the festival of lights celebrating the victory of good over evil. Holi, the festival of colors, marking spring and the triumph of love and renewal. Navaratri, 9 nights honoring the goddess Durga. Raksha Bandhan, Ganesh Chaturthi, and Janmashtami are also major events, celebrated differently across regions. These festivals bring families and communities together, blending devotion with fun, music, and food. Society and ethics. Hindu ethics focus on living in harmony with oneself, others, and the universe. The concept of dharma plays a central role, guiding personal and social duties based on age, role, and situation. Historically, Hindu society was influenced by the Varna system, later interpreted as caste, which divided people into social groups. Although the caste system has been legally abolished in India, its effects still persist. Many modern Hindus reject caste discrimination and emphasize equality and compassion. Schools and sects. Hinduism isn't a single path, but a broad spectrum of beliefs and philosophies. There are 6 classical schools of Hindu philosophy, including Vedanta, Yoga, and Samkhya, each offering different paths to understanding reality. There are also many sects and traditions. Some focus on Vishnu, Vaishnavism, others on Shiva, Shaivism, and some on the goddess, Shaktism. There are even movements like ISKCON, the Hare Krishna movement, which has followers worldwide. Despite the differences, all share a reverence for Hindu scriptures and the goal of spiritual growth. Temples and art. Hindu temples are more than places of worship. They're sacred spaces built with deep symbolism. Inside, you'll often find images or statues of deities, elaborate carvings, and sacred geometry. Temples vary greatly across India and the world, from towering stone structures in the south to colorful shrines in the north. Hindu art includes dance, music, sculpture, and storytelling, each used as a way to express devotion and bring the divine into everyday life. Modern Hinduism. Today, Hinduism continues to evolve. In India, it remains a major part of public and private life. Around the world, Hindu communities have built temples, started yoga and meditation centers, and shared their culture through festivals and food. In the U.S., Hinduism is practiced by over 2 million people. It influences wellness trends, interfaith dialogues, and academic studies. At the same time, some modern Hindus work to reinterpret traditional teachings in light of science, human rights, and social justice. Hinduism is not just a religion. It's a living, breathing tradition with deep roots and wide branches. It teaches that life is sacred, that all beings are connected, and that there are many paths to truth. Whether through worship, meditation, service, or study, Hindus seek to grow spiritually and live in harmony with the world. With its rich history and flexible nature, Hinduism offers wisdom that resonates far beyond its origins and continues to inspire people all around the globe. Christianity. Christianity is the world's largest religion, with over 2 billion followers across the globe. At its heart, Christianity is based on the life, teachings, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ, who Christians believe is the Son of God. The religion centers on love, grace, forgiveness, and a personal relationship with God. For many, Christianity is more than just faith. It's a worldview, a moral compass, and a foundation for daily living. While it began in the Middle East over 2,000 years ago, it has become a global force with deep roots in American history and culture. History. Christianity began in the 1st century CE in Roman-occupied Judea. Jesus of Nazareth, a Jewish preacher, gathered followers through his teachings of love, humility, and the coming kingdom of God. He was crucified by Roman authorities, but his followers believed he rose from the dead, a belief that sparked the Christian movement. Early Christians were often persecuted, but the faith spread rapidly throughout the Roman Empire. In 313 CE, Christianity was legalized by Emperor Constantine and later became the empire's official religion. Over the centuries, Christianity spread through Europe, Africa, Asia, and the Americas, often tied to colonization and political power. In 1054 CE, the Great Schism split Christianity into Eastern, Orthodox, and Western, Roman Catholic branches. Later, in the 1500s, the Protestant Reformation led by Martin Luther created new Christian denominations, emphasizing Scripture and personal faith over church authority. Core beliefs. Central to Christianity is the belief in one God who exists in three persons: Father, Son, Jesus Christ, and Holy Spirit, a concept known as the Trinity. Christians believe Jesus is both fully human and fully divine, sent to save humanity from sin through his death and resurrection. Salvation is a key idea. Christians believe people are saved by grace through faith, not by good deeds alone. Eternal life in heaven is promised to those who accept Jesus as Lord and Savior. Christianity also teaches the importance of love, loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself. The Ten Commandments, found in the Old Testament, still shape Christian morality, along with Jesus' teachings in the Sermon on the Mount. Major texts. The Christian Holy Book is the Bible, divided into two main parts: the Old Testament, which overlaps with Jewish scriptures, and the New Testament, which includes the Gospels, the story of Jesus, letters from early church leaders, called epistles, and the Book of Revelation. The four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, are the primary sources for Jesus' life and teachings. The epistles, especially those written by Paul, help shape Christian theology and practice. Different Christian traditions use slightly different versions of the Bible, but the core message remains the same: God's love for humanity and the path to redemption through Jesus. Gods and deities. Christianity is strictly monotheistic, meaning belief in one God. However, Christians believe in the Trinity: God the Father, the Creator of all things; Jesus Christ, the Son, who came to earth to save humanity; the Holy Spirit, God's presence and power at work in the world today. Unlike religions with multiple deities, Christianity focuses on a single, all-powerful God who is personal, loving, and involved in human life. Christians do not worship saints or angels, but in some traditions, like Catholicism, saints are honored as holy people who can pray on behalf of others. Practices and rituals. Christian practices focus on worship, prayer, reading the Bible, and living according to Jesus' teachings. Sunday worship services are common and may include singing, sermons, prayer, and communion, also called the Lord's Supper or Eucharist. Two main rituals, or sacraments, are practiced in most denominations: baptism, symbolizing entry into the Christian faith communion, remembering Jesus' sacrifice through bread and wine. Many Christians also pray daily, read Scripture, and serve others as part of their faith. Some observe fasting during Lent, a 40-day period leading up to Easter. Festivals. The most widely celebrated Christian festivals are Christmas, celebrating the birth of Jesus; Easter, honoring his resurrection from the dead; Good Friday, remembering his crucifixion; Pentecost, marking the coming of the Holy Spirit to the early church. Other observances include Advent, the weeks leading up to Christmas, and Lent. In the U.S., these holidays often mix religious meaning with cultural traditions like gift-giving, egg hunts, and special meals. Society and ethics. Christianity has had a massive influence on Western ethics, law, and social values. Core Christian ethics include compassion, honesty, humility, charity, and forgiveness. Many social justice movements, such as the abolition of slavery, civil rights, and humanitarian aid, have roots in Christian teachings. At the same time, Christianity has been used to justify conflict and exclusion, especially when misinterpreted or tied to political power. Modern Christians often engage in debates over issues like poverty, abortion, marriage, race, and the environment, seeking to apply their faith to real-world challenges. Schools and sects. Christianity includes three major branches: Catholicism, the largest, led by the Pope, and centered in Rome; Orthodox Christianity, mostly in Eastern Europe and the Middle East, with ancient liturgies and traditions. Protestantism, a wide range of denominations like Baptists, Methodists, Lutherans, Presbyterians, and Evangelicals. Each group interprets the Bible and Christian life a bit differently. Some emphasize ritual and tradition, while others focus on personal faith and direct experience with God. Despite differences, all share belief in Jesus and his role as Savior. Temples and art. Christian places of worship are called churches. They range from simple chapels to grand cathedrals. Common features include a cross, altar, pews, stained glass windows, and sometimes bells or organs. Christian art includes paintings, sculptures, music, and architecture inspired by biblical stories and themes. From Michelangelo's Last Supper to modern gospel music, Christian creativity has shaped art history for centuries. Icons are especially important in Orthodox traditions, while Protestant churches tend to be more minimal in design. Modern Christianity. In the modern world, Christianity is changing. In the U.S., it's still the dominant religion, but fewer young people identify as Christian compared to older generations. At the same time, new expressions of Christianity, like online churches, contemporary worship, and house fellowships, are emerging. Globally, Christianity is growing rapidly in places like Africa, Latin America, and parts of Asia. Social issues, science, and interfaith dialogue are influencing how modern Christians think about faith. While some Christians stick to traditional values, others are reinterpreting scriptures to support gender equality, LGBTQ rights, and environmental stewardship. Christianity is a faith centered on love, hope, and redemption. From its beginnings in ancient Judea to its global presence today, it has inspired billions of people to live with purpose, serve others, and seek spiritual truth. Whether through weekly worship, quiet prayer, or acts of kindness, Christianity offers a message that continues to shape hearts, minds, and societies. At its best, it calls people to live with compassion, forgive freely, and walk humbly with God. Islam is the second largest religion in the world, with over 1.9 billion followers known as Muslims. It's a faith centered on submission to Allah, the Arabic word for God, and living a life guided by His will. Islam teaches peace, compassion, and justice and emphasizes personal responsibility and community. For Muslims, faith isn't just about belief. It's about action, daily discipline, and a deep connection to both God and society. Although often misunderstood in the West, Islam shares many roots with Christianity and Judaism and has played a major role in shaping world history and culture. Islam began in the 7th century CE in Mecca, a city in modern-day Saudi Arabia. Its founder, Prophet Muhammad, is believed by Muslims to be the final messenger in a long line of prophets that includes Abraham, Moses, and Jesus. At age 40, Muhammad received his first revelation from the angel Gabriel. Over the next 23 years, he continued to receive messages from God, which were later compiled into Islam's holy book, the Quran. Despite early opposition, Islam spread rapidly. Within a century of Muhammad's death, it expanded across the Middle East, North Africa, Spain, and parts of Asia. Muslim civilizations became centers of science, philosophy, art, and trade. Core beliefs. At the heart of Islam is the belief in one God, Allah, who is merciful, all-powerful, and compassionate. Islam emphasizes the importance of living in accordance with God's will as revealed through the Quran and the example of Muhammad. There are 5 pillars of Islam, which form the foundation of a Muslim's faith and practice. Shahada, declaration of faith. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his messenger. Salat, daily prayer, performed 5 times a day. Zakat, giving to charity, typically 2.5% of savings. Sawm, fasting, during the month of Ramadan. Hajj, a pilgrimage to Mecca, required once in a lifetime if physically and financially able. Muslims also believe in angels, divine books, prophets, the Day of Judgment, and life after death. Major texts. The central religious text of Islam is the Quran, believed to be the literal word of God, revealed to Muhammad in Arabic. It covers spiritual guidance, moral principles, legal teachings, and personal conduct. Muslims recite it regularly and often memorize large parts of it. Another key source is the Hadith, collections of sayings and actions of the Prophet Muhammad. These help interpret the Quran and guide Muslims in areas not directly addressed in the Holy Book. Together, the Quran and Hadith form the basis of Sharia, or Islamic law. Gods and deities. Islam is strictly monotheistic. Muslims believe in only one God, Allah, who has no partners, no children, and no equals. Unlike some other faiths, Islam doesn't represent God in human or animal form. There are no statues or images of Allah. Worship is directed solely to God, and associating partners with Him, called shirk, is considered the gravest sin. While Muslims deeply respect prophets, including Jesus and Moses, they are not worshipped. Prophet Muhammad is honored as the final messenger, but not divine. Practices and rituals. Muslim practice is highly structured, but also deeply personal. The 5 daily prayers are a central part of life, creating moments of reflection and connection with God. Each prayer includes verses from the Quran and physical movements like bowing and prostrating. Other practices include fasting during Ramadan, which builds discipline and empathy, giving charity to support the poor, and attending Friday congregational prayers at the mosque. Cleanliness, modesty, honesty, and respect for others are also daily priorities in a practicing Muslim's life. Festivals. Islam has 2 major religious holidays. Eid al-Fitr, celebrated at the end of Ramadan. It's a joyful day of feasting, community prayer, and charity. Eid al-Adha, known as the Festival of Sacrifice, it commemorates the Prophet Abraham's willingness to sacrifice his son in obedience to God. It occurs during the Hajj season. Both Eids involve gathering with family, giving to the needy, dressing in new clothes, and sharing meals. In the U.S., these holidays are increasingly recognized in schools and workplaces. Society and ethics. Islamic ethics are built on justice, mercy, and responsibility. The Quran and teachings of the Prophet emphasize truthfulness, fairness, care for the poor, and respect for parents, neighbors, and the environment. Muslims are encouraged to work hard, avoid harming others, and live with humility. Social justice, economic fairness, and the dignity of every human being are core principles. While Islamic societies vary greatly, these ethical teachings influence personal behavior, family life, business conduct, and law. Schools and sects. Islam has 2 main branches: Sunni Islam, the largest group, making up around 85 to 90% of Muslims worldwide. Sunnis emphasize the consensus of the community and the example of the Prophet's companions. Shia Islam. Roughly 10 to 15% of Muslims, mostly in Iran, Iraq, and parts of Lebanon and South Asia. Shias believe that leadership should have remained within the Prophet's family, starting with his cousin and son-in-law, Ali. There are also other smaller groups like Sufis, who focus on spiritual closeness to God through meditation and devotion. Despite differences, all Muslims share the Quran, the Prophet's teachings, and the 5 pillars. Temples and art. Muslim places of worship are called mosques. They're centers of prayer, community, and learning. A typical mosque includes a prayer hall, a minaret for the call to prayer, and a mihrab, a niche pointing toward Mecca. Islamic art avoids depictions of God or prophets. Instead, it features calligraphy, geometric patterns, and architecture, like the domes and arches seen in famous mosques, such as the Blue Mosque in Turkey. Mosques in the U.S. reflect this tradition while blending with local architecture. Modern Islam today. Islam is a global religion with diverse cultures, languages, and interpretations. In the U.S., there are around 3.5 million Muslims, including immigrants, African Americans, and converts from all backgrounds. Modern Muslims live in every walk of life: doctors, teachers, artists, entrepreneurs, and actively engage in politics, interfaith work, and social justice. Like other religions, Islam faces challenges in the modern world, including stereotypes, political tensions, and debates over interpretation. Many Muslims are working to balance tradition with modern values, emphasizing education, peace, and coexistence. Islam is a faith built on submission to God, service to humanity, and striving to live a life of meaning, mercy, and responsibility. With its rich spiritual teachings and global community, it continues to guide and inspire nearly 2 billion people around the world. At its core, Islam calls for worshiping one God, doing good, and walking the path of righteousness. Understanding Islam in its true form helps break barriers, build respect, and open doors for deeper dialogue and unity in a diverse world. Secular, atheist, agnostic, and non-religious. Not everyone follows a religion. In fact, more and more people today identify as secular, atheist, agnostic, or simply non-religious. In the U.S., this group is growing fast, especially among younger generations. But being non-religious doesn't mean having no beliefs or values. For many, it's about finding meaning through science, philosophy, personal experience, or community, without relying on organized religion or belief in a higher power. This video will explore what it means to live a secular life, the history behind these worldviews, and how they shape ethics, society, and identity in today's world. History. Secular and non-religious thought isn't new. Ancient thinkers like Epicurus in Greece or Confucius in China offered ethical systems not based on gods. In Europe, the Enlightenment in the 1600s and 1700s emphasized reason, skepticism, and scientific inquiry, challenging religious authority and opening the door to secular philosophy. In the 19th and 20th centuries, thinkers like Charles Darwin, Karl Marx, Friedrich Nietzsche, and Bertrand Russell questioned the role of religion in human life. Their ideas helped shape modern humanism, secularism, and atheism. In the U.S., church and state are constitutionally separate, and freedom of belief includes the freedom not to believe. Today, about 30% of Americans identify as non-religious, with terms like atheist, agnostic, and spiritual but not religious becoming more common. Core beliefs. The secular and non-religious worldviews are diverse, but they generally share some core ideas. Human reason and evidence are the best tools for understanding the world. Morality doesn't have to come from religion. It can come from empathy, experience, and shared human values. Life's meaning is not given by a deity, but is created by each individual through relationships, passions, and purpose. Skepticism towards supernatural claims is common. If something can't be proven or observed, many non-religious people remain neutral or reject it. Atheists typically do not believe in any gods, while agnostics say the existence of a god is unknown or unknowable. Secular humanists go a step further, focusing on ethics, justice, and human dignity without the need for divine authority. Major texts. Unlike religions, secular and non-religious philosophies don't have a single holy book, but there are influential writings that guide thought and values. Key texts include On the Origin of Species by Charles Darwin, which challenged religious ideas of creation, Why I Am Not a Christian by Bertrand Russell, The God Delusion by Richard Dawkins, Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari, which looks at human history through science, The Humanist Manifestos, which outline ethical principles for secular living. These works focus on logic, evidence, science, and human experience as the basis for understanding the universe and our place in it. Gods and deities. Atheists reject the belief in gods or supernatural beings. Agnostics say, we can't know for sure if a god exists or not. Some secular people may not think much about the question at all. It's simply not a central part of their lives. Rather than relying on divine figures, secular worldviews focus on human responsibility. There's no belief in a creator, afterlife, or divine judgment. The focus is on the here and now, living well, doing good, and making the most of this one life. Practices and rituals. Secular and non-religious people typically don't follow formal rituals like prayer, worship, or fasting, but that doesn't mean their lives are empty of routine, tradition, or meaning. They may create personal rituals, like meditation, journaling, or nature walks. They celebrate milestones like births, marriages, and deaths with human-centered ceremonies, often led by secular celebrants or officiants. Reflection, gratitude, and awe can come from art, music, science, or time spent in nature, without invoking the supernatural. Festivals. Non-religious people may not observe religious holidays for spiritual reasons, but many still celebrate cultural traditions. For example, Christmas might be celebrated as a family holiday with gifts and joy, not religious meaning. Thanksgiving, New Year's, and Independence Day are widely embraced. Some secular groups recognize Darwin Day, February 12th, to honor science and evolution. World Humanist Day, June 21st, celebrates human reason and ethics. In short, secular people still celebrate. They just do so in ways that reflect personal values and cultural traditions, not religious doctrine. Society and ethics. A common myth is that morality comes only from religion, but secular ethics argue the opposite. You don't need religion to be good. Secular moral systems are based on reason, empathy, fairness, and consequences. Ideas like the Golden Rule, respect for others, and justice are embraced not because they're commanded by a god, but because they're logical and beneficial for society. Secular people often care deeply about human rights, equality, science education, and environmental protection. They support values like freedom of speech, separation of church and state, and evidence-based policy. Schools and sects. While there are no sects in the traditional religious sense, there are different schools of thought within the secular world. Atheists believe there are no gods. Agnostics, unsure if gods exist, believe it's unknowable. Humanists emphasize ethics, reason, and human dignity without religion. Freethinkers support independent thought, free from dogma. Secularists advocate keeping religion separate from government and education. Some people don't identify with any label at all. They just live their lives without religion, and that's okay too. Temples and art secular people don't worship in temples, but that doesn't mean they don't gather. Community centers, universities, philosophy clubs, and online forums often act as spaces for connection, discussion, and support. Art, music, literature, and film play a huge role in secular culture. From Beethoven to Carl Sagan, from Picasso to science fiction, secular people often find inspiration in human creativity, nature, and the cosmos. There's also a growing movement of secular ceremonies, like weddings and funerals, that honor life and death without religion. Modern secular, non-religious, atheist, agnostic. In the 21st century, secularism is on the rise, especially in the US, Europe, and East Asia. Many people are nones. They don't follow a religion, even if they're spiritual or believe in something greater. Technology, science, access to information, and increasing religious freedom have all contributed to this shift. Still, many non-religious people face stereotypes, especially in highly religious areas. But they're becoming more visible, running for office, writing books, leading organizations, and building communities around reason, compassion, and equality. Being secular, atheist, agnostic, or non-religious doesn't mean living without purpose. It means finding your own path, guided by evidence, ethics, and experience, not ancient texts or religious authorities. This growing movement reflects a deep desire for freedom of thought, personal meaning, and human connection. Whether it's standing up for truth, building a just society, or simply living a good life, non-religious people are part of the global story, offering a unique and thoughtful perspective on what it means to be human. Buddhism. Buddhism is a spiritual tradition that emphasizes inner peace, mindfulness, and understanding the nature of reality. With over 500 million followers worldwide, it's one of the oldest and most influential religions in the world. Unlike theistic faiths, Buddhism doesn't revolve around a god or creator. Instead, it focuses on the individual's journey to enlightenment, a deep state of wisdom and freedom from suffering. In the West, Buddhism is often admired for its calm, practical teachings and its focus on compassion and self-awareness. History. Buddhism began over 2,500 years ago in ancient India, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, who became known as the Buddha, meaning the Enlightened One. Siddhartha was born a prince, but left his royal life after witnessing human suffering. He set out to find a path beyond pain, aging, and death. After years of meditation and spiritual seeking, he achieved enlightenment under a Bodhi tree and began teaching others the path to freedom from suffering. From India, Buddhism spread across Asia, reaching Sri Lanka, China, Japan, Tibet, Thailand, and beyond. Today, it's practiced in many forms across the globe, including in growing communities in the U.S. Core beliefs. The foundation of Buddhism lies in understanding and overcoming suffering. This is expressed through the Four Noble Truths. Life contains suffering, dukkha. Suffering has a cause, craving, and attachment. There is a way to end suffering. The way is the Eightfold Path, a guide for ethical living, mental discipline, and wisdom. The Eightfold Path includes right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. Buddhists also believe in karma, cause and effect, rebirth, and the goal of reaching nirvana, a state beyond suffering and desire. Major texts. Buddhism doesn't have one single holy book, but it has many important texts depending on the tradition. The earliest teachings are recorded in the Tripitaka, or Pali Canon, which includes the Buddha's sermons, rules for monastic life, and philosophical discussions. Other major texts include the Dhammapada, a popular collection of the Buddha's sayings, the Mahayana Sutras, scriptures from the Mahayana branch of Buddhism, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, guidance for the dying and the dead in Tibetan Buddhism. These texts serve as guides for ethical behavior, meditation, and spiritual development. Gods and deities. Buddhism is non-theistic. The Buddha is not a god, and Buddhism doesn't rely on a creator deity. Instead, it teaches that each person has the potential for enlightenment. However, in some forms of Buddhism, especially Mahayana and Vajrayana, there are celestial Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and symbolic deities. These figures represent different aspects of wisdom and compassion and may be visualized in meditation, but they are not worshipped as all-powerful gods. Ultimately, the focus is on self-awareness and personal transformation, not divine intervention. Practices and rituals. Buddhist practice is centered on meditation, ethical living, and mindfulness, being fully present in each moment. Common practices include sitting meditation, vipassana or zazen, chanting and reciting sutras, observing moral precepts like not harming others, not lying, and avoiding intoxication, almsgiving, offering food or donations to monks and temples. Many Buddhists also practice compassion and loving kindness, metta, toward all beings, aiming to reduce suffering in the world through kind thoughts, words, and actions. Festivals. Buddhist holidays vary by culture, but common ones include Vesak, Buddha Day, celebrates the birth, enlightenment, and death of the Buddha. It's the most important Buddhist festival and involves temple visits, lanterns, and acts of charity. Magha Puja honors an important early gathering of monks during the Buddha's life. Uposatha, a bi-weekly day for meditation, confession, and renewing vows. Obon in Japan, a time to honor ancestors through prayer and traditional dances. These festivals focus on reflection, gratitude, and community service rather than large-scale celebrations or material gifts. Society and ethics. Buddhist ethics are based on non-harming, compassion, and mindful living. The core moral code is the 5 precepts. Do not kill, do not steal. Do not engage in sexual misconduct, do not lie, do not use intoxicants. These are not commandments, but guidelines for reducing suffering and living mindfully. Buddhism also promotes right livelihood, encouraging people to work in ways that help, not harm, others. Social values like tolerance, simplicity, and peaceful coexistence are central to Buddhist culture. Schools and sects. There are three major branches of Buddhism. Theravada, the teaching of the elders, mostly found in Southeast Asia, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Myanmar. It emphasizes monastic life and meditation. Mahayana, found in East Asia, China, Japan, Korea. This branch teaches that all beings can become enlightened and often uses art and devotional practices. Vajrayana, practiced mainly in Tibet and Mongolia. It includes rituals, chanting, and symbolic imagery to achieve spiritual transformation more quickly. Each tradition shares the Buddha's core teachings, but differs in methods and cultural expression. Temples and art. Buddhist temples are places of meditation, teaching, and community. They usually include a statue of the Buddha, a stupa or pagoda, monument to sacred relics. Space for chanting and meditation. Temples may be simple or elaborate, depending on the country. In the U.S., you'll find temples in many cities, often serving immigrant communities and spiritual seekers alike. Buddhist art often includes serene images of the Buddha, colorful mandalas, and symbolic hand gestures, mudras. These aren't objects of worship. They're meant to inspire calm, focus, and reflection. Modern Buddhism. Today, Buddhism is growing in the West, including the U.S., where many people are drawn to its emphasis on mindfulness, meditation, and mental clarity. Some follow it as a religion, others embrace it as a spiritual philosophy or practice. Influential teachers like the Dalai Lama, Thich Nhat Hanh, and Pema Chodron have introduced Buddhist ideas to wider audiences through books, talks, and retreats. Secular mindfulness, used in therapy and education, also comes from Buddhist meditation, though it's often presented without religious context. Modern Buddhists range from monks to scientists to everyday people seeking a peaceful, meaningful life. Buddhism offers a unique path, one rooted in awareness, compassion, and inner transformation. It doesn't ask you to believe in gods, but to look within, understand your mind, and reduce suffering, both your own and others. For many in the U.S. and beyond, Buddhism is not just a religion, but a practical guide for living wisely and kindly in a complex world. Whether you're seeking spiritual insight or simply more peace in daily life, its timeless teachings have something to offer everyone. Chinese traditional religion, Taoism, and Confucianism. Chinese traditional religion isn't just one religion. It's a mix of spiritual, philosophical, and cultural practices that have shaped Chinese life for over 2,000 years. The two main pillars are Taoism, Taoism, and Confucianism, often practiced alongside ancestor worship, folk beliefs, and Buddhism. While different in focus, both Taoism and Confucianism offer timeless wisdom about how to live in harmony with nature, with society, and with oneself. For a Western audience, think of Taoism as more spiritual and nature-focused, while Confucianism is more about ethics, family, and social order. History. Taoism and Confucianism both emerged in ancient China around the 6th to 5th century BCE during a time of political unrest and philosophical debate. Confucius, Confuzi, a Chinese teacher and philosopher, developed Confucianism as a system of ethics, order, and moral leadership to stabilize society. Laozi, often credited as the founder of Taoism, offered a contrasting view, urging people to live simply, follow nature, and let things flow. Over centuries, these traditions evolved side by side. Rather than compete, they became complementary. Confucianism guided social life. Taoism guided inner life and spiritual balance. Both influenced Chinese government, family life, medicine, art, and even martial arts. Core beliefs. Taoism is centered on the concept of the Tao, the natural way or path of the universe. Taoists believe the Tao can't be fully described, only experienced. The key is to live in harmony with it by practicing Wu Wei or non-forcing, letting things unfold naturally. Taoism values simplicity, balance, and inner peace. Confucianism, on the other hand, is about building a moral, orderly society. It emphasizes filial piety, respect for parents, rituals and tradition, education, loyalty to family and state. Confucius taught that people should act with humaneness, and follow proper behavior, li, to create a stable, virtuous community. Major texts. Both traditions have core writings. Taoism, Tao Te Ching, attributed to Laozi, this poetic book offers deep insights into the Tao and how to live in harmony with it. Zhuangzi, a collection of stories and parables that expand on Taoist philosophy with humor and paradox. Confucianism, the Analects, sayings of Confucius, recorded by his disciples. The Five Classics, a set of older Chinese texts. Confucius considered essential to education and governance. The Book of Rites explains the importance of rituals in maintaining social harmony. These texts are still studied today in schools and spiritual communities in China and around the world. Gods and Deities. Taoism includes a rich pantheon of gods, immortals, and spirits. While early Taoism was more philosophical, later religious Taoism developed temples, rituals, and deities, like the Jade Emperor, ruler of heaven. The Eight Immortals, legendary figures with supernatural powers. Laozi, who was deified in some sects. Taoists believe in spiritual forces that affect the world and practice rituals to maintain harmony between heaven, earth, and humanity. Confucianism, by contrast, is mostly non-theistic. It acknowledges heaven, Tian, as a cosmic moral force, but doesn't focus on gods. Confucianism is more about human relationships, not divine beings. Practices and rituals. Taoist practices often focus on health, longevity, and spiritual energy. These include meditation and breathing exercises, Tai Chi and Qigong, flowing movements to balance energy, Qi, Feng Shui, arranging spaces for harmony, alchemy, and dietary practices to promote vitality. Taoist priests conduct rituals for healing, protection, and honoring deities or ancestors. Confucian rituals are more formal and ethical. They focus on ancestral rites, ceremonial respect for elders and leaders, rites of passage like marriages and funerals. The goal is to build respect, order, and social cohesion through ritual behavior. Festivals. Both traditions share many festivals with Chinese folk religion, including Chinese New Year, a major celebration for family, renewal, and honoring ancestors. Yingming Festival, a day to sweep ancestors' graves and offer food or incense. Mid-Autumn Festival, a harvest celebration under the full moon, honoring unity and balance. Lantern Festival, a Taoist-influenced event celebrating light, harmony, and the closing of New Year celebrations. Taoist temples may also have local festivals for specific deities or spiritual events. Society and ethics. Confucian ethics are at the heart of Chinese society. Even in modern times, key values include respect for authority and elders' education as a moral duty, harmony in relationships, family, friends, ruler-subject, righteous leadership. Confucianism helped shape civil service exams, family structures, schools, and government systems for centuries. Taoist ethics focus more on personal alignment with nature, simplicity, and nonviolence. Rather than strict rules, Taoism encourages people to flow with life and reduce conflict through balance. Schools and sects. Taoism has two main branches. Philosophical Taoism, based on texts like the Tao Te Ching, it focuses on self-cultivation and harmony. Religious Taoism includes temples, rituals, clergy, and a pantheon of gods. Within religious Taoism, various sects developed over time, like the Zhengyi and Quanzhen schools. Confucianism doesn't have formal sects, but has evolved through classical Confucianism, based on Confucius's original teachings, Neo-Confucianism, a later development that merged Confucian ideas with metaphysics and spirituality, especially during the Song and Ming dynasties. Both traditions have adapted over time to political shifts, Buddhism's influence, and modern life. Temples and art. Taoist temples are often colorful and filled with statues of gods, incense, and symbolic imagery. They serve as places for prayer and offerings. Festivals, spiritual counseling. Taoist art features. Nature, landscapes symbolizing harmony, dragons, phoenixes, and immortals. Calligraphy of Taoist sayings. Confucian temples, on the other hand, are more solemn and scholarly, honoring Confucius and his teachings. They often feature stone tablets, lecture halls, ritual spaces for respectful ceremonies. Art linked to Confucianism focuses on education, morality, and social virtues, often through paintings, scrolls, and classical poetry. Modern Chinese traditional religion. Today, both Taoism and Confucianism are experiencing a revival in China and spreading abroad. While the 20th century brought suppression under communist rule, the 21st century has seen renewed interest in cultural roots and spiritual traditions. In the U.S., many Chinese Americans still practice a mix of ancestor worship, Confucian family values, Taoist health practices. Taoist ideas have also entered popular culture through martial arts, mindfulness, and meditation. Books like The Tao of Pu, Feng Shui in Interior Design. Confucianism continues to shape education and moral thinking, especially in East Asian communities. Chinese traditional religion is not just a belief system. It's a way of life, a blend of philosophy, ritual, and culture that has shaped millions for centuries. Taoism teaches us to live simply and follow nature. Confucianism teaches us to live responsibly and with respect for others. Together, they offer a balanced path, one inward, one outward, reminding us that harmony comes from both inner peace and right action. For anyone seeking wisdom, calm, or connection in the modern world, these ancient traditions still speak with clarity and depth. Indigenous religions, African, native, and other traditional belief systems. Indigenous religions are the original spiritual systems of the world, deeply rooted in the land, culture, and history of their people. From the plains of North America to the forests of West Africa and the islands of the Pacific, these belief systems are as diverse as the people who practice them. Unlike major world religions with centralized scriptures or founders, indigenous religions are oral, local, and community-based. They are about living in harmony with nature, honoring ancestors, and maintaining balance between the spiritual and physical worlds. For many Americans, understanding indigenous spirituality means recognizing the richness of these traditions and the resilience of the communities that uphold them, often against centuries of colonialism, oppression, and forced conversion. History. Indigenous religions are among the oldest spiritual paths in human history, going back tens of thousands of years. Long before the rise of organized religion, people lived with beliefs tied to nature, ancestors, spirits, and rituals of the land. In Africa, spiritual systems like the Yoruba religion, Vodun, Voodoo, and traditional Zulu beliefs have guided community life for generations. In North America, native tribes such as the Lakota, Navajo, Cherokee, and many others have spiritual teachings that honor the Great Spirit, the land, and sacred ceremonies. Across Oceania, South America, Australia, and Asia, indigenous groups have passed down unique spiritual wisdom through storytelling, dance, art, and seasonal rituals. Colonialism, slavery, and missionary efforts tried to erase these traditions, but many have survived, and today they're being revived, protected, and proudly practiced. Core beliefs. Though varied, many indigenous religions share common themes: spiritual connection to nature, rivers, trees, animals, and even weather are seen as sacred or inhabited by spirits. Ancestors are central. They are honored, consulted, and believed to influence the living. The land is alive. It is not owned, but shared. With deep respect. Life is cyclical, not linear. Time is marked by the seasons, natural cycles, and sacred rites. Harmony and balance are key between humans, the spirit world, and the earth. These religions are not about believing in one God or set of rules, but about participating in life's sacred rhythms through rituals, relationships, and respect. Major texts. Most indigenous religions do not have written scriptures. Instead, knowledge is passed down orally. Stories told by elders, chants, songs, and prayers. Symbols and totems, ceremonial practices. For example, the Dagara people of West Africa pass wisdom through divination and oral lineage. The Lakota maintain their sacred teachings through oral stories, the pipe, and the sweat lodge. Aboriginal Australians use songlines, musical paths across the land that map both geography and spiritual history. These traditions are living texts, taught by example, preserved in memory, and adapted with time. Gods and deities. Indigenous belief systems may be monotheistic, polytheistic, animistic, or pantheistic, or a blend of these. Many Native American tribes believe in a great spirit, a unifying divine force. African religions often recognize a supreme creator, like Olodumare in Yoruba tradition, along with many orishas, gods, or spiritual beings who govern different parts of life, like rivers, war, fertility. Spirits of ancestors, animals, or places are regularly honored and invoked. These deities are not distant. They are interwoven into daily life, called upon through prayer, ritual, and offerings. Practices and rituals. Indigenous practices are communal, sacred, and deeply symbolic. They vary greatly by culture, but often include rites of passage, such as birth, coming of age, marriage, and death. Seasonal ceremonies tied to planting, harvesting, or solstices. Dance, drumming, chanting, and storytelling shamanism, where a spiritual leader communicates with the spirit world offerings and sacrifices, not always material, but acts of devotion. For instance, the sun dance is a powerful Lakota ceremony of renewal. Ifa divination is central in Yoruba tradition, offering guidance from the spirit world. In the Amazon, rituals using sacred plants like ayahuasca are used for healing and vision. Indigenous festivals, are times of joy, reflection, and renewal, often linked to nature. Harvest festivals give thanks to the earth. Rainmaking ceremonies call for balance in climate. New Year rituals, like the African Yam Festival, celebrate abundance. Powwows among Native Americans bring together tribes for drumming, dancing, and honoring tradition. Many festivals also remember ancestral spirits, ensuring they're never forgotten. Society and ethics. In indigenous worldviews, spirituality and daily life are inseparable. Ethics aren't based on commandments, but on relationships, respect for elders, and communal wisdom. Stewardship of the land. Reciprocity. Giving as much as you take, truth-telling, courage, and honoring promises. There's a strong sense of interconnectedness. Harming one part of the world, a river, a tribe member, an animal, harms the whole. Justice is often restorative, not punitive. Schools and sects. Indigenous religions don't usually divide into formal sects. Instead, spiritual paths are localized, specific to a tribe, village, or region. For example, the Yoruba religion has different lineages and priesthoods, but shares common roots. Native American tribes each have their own spiritual systems, even though some symbols, like the circle, eagle, or drum, appear across cultures. In modern times, some indigenous religions have organized into structured movements for legal protection, education, or cultural revival. Temples and art. Indigenous sacred spaces are often found in nature itself, mountains, rivers, groves, or special stones. However, there are also shrines in homes or villages, altars made of earth, shells, bones, feathers, or cloth. Totem poles in Pacific Northwest tribes, telling family or clan stories. Sacred circles, sweat lodges, or ceremonial houses. Art is spiritual, whether in beadwork, masks, pottery, or tattoos. Every symbol has meaning. Every pattern tells a story. Modern indigenous religions. Today, indigenous spirituality is alive, growing, and adapting, often in the face of ongoing threats like land loss, environmental harm, and cultural erasure. Many Native American communities in the U.S. are reviving languages, dances, and ceremonies once banned. African diasporic religions like Santeria, Candomblé, and Vodou have flourished across the Americas, blending traditional African beliefs with Christianity to survive colonialism. Young indigenous leaders are using social media, music, and education to reconnect with ancestral traditions and fight for cultural sovereignty. At the same time, more non-indigenous people are learning from these teachings, especially about ecology, sacred balance, and community wisdom. Indigenous religions are not relics of the past. They are living, breathing spiritual systems that hold deep truths about humanity's connection to the earth, to each other, and to the unseen. In a world facing ecological crisis, disconnection, and cultural fragmentation, indigenous wisdom reminds us that we belong to the land, not the other way around, and that every life is sacred. Their stories deserve not just to be told, but to be honored, protected, and heard. Sikhism. Sikhism is one of the world's youngest major religions, but its impact is global. With over 25 million followers, Sikhs form the fifth largest religion in the world. Most live in the Indian state of Punjab, but large Sikh communities can be found in Canada, the US, the UK, and elsewhere. Sikhism is a monotheistic religion founded in the 15th century in South Asia. It's centered around the idea of one universal God, equality of all people, honest living, and service to humanity. In a world divided by caste, gender, and religion, Sikhism offered a fresh spiritual path focused on unity, action, and humility. History. Sikhism was founded in the late 1400s by Guru Nanak Dev Ji, born in 1469 in what is now Pakistan. He grew up in a time of social injustice, religious conflict, and caste discrimination. Guru Nanak traveled widely and taught that there is only one God and that all human beings are equal, regardless of religion, caste, or gender. He was followed by 9 other gurus who built upon his teachings and helped shape Sikh practices and community life. The 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, formalized the Sikh identity by creating the Khalsa, a spiritual and military community committed to justice and service. After Guru Gobind Singh's time, spiritual authority was passed to the Guru Granth Sahib, the Sikh Holy Scripture, which is now considered the eternal living Guru. Core beliefs. Sikhism is based on a few powerful core beliefs. One God. Sikhs believe in one formless, timeless, and genderless God who is present in all of creation. Equality. All people are equal, regardless of caste, gender, or race. Honest living. Sikhs are encouraged to earn a living honestly and avoid cheating or exploiting others. Seva, selfless service. Helping others is a vital part of Sikh life. Meditation. Sikhs remember and repeat God's name, Nam Simran, as a spiritual practice. Rejection of superstition and ritualism. Sikhism encourages a direct connection to God, not through rituals or intermediaries. Major texts. The main scripture of Sikhism is the Guru Granth Sahib. It's not just a holy book. Sikhs treat it as their eternal guru. It contains hymns, poetry, and teachings of the Sikh gurus and other saints from various faiths, written in multiple languages including Punjabi, Sanskrit, and Persian. The Guru Granth Sahib focuses on love, devotion, moral living, and the unity of all humanity. In Sikh temples, or gurdwaras, the text is placed on a throne under a canopy and is read aloud with great respect. Another important text is the Dasam Granth, which contains writings attributed to Guru Gobind Singh. Gods and deities. Sikhism believes in only one God, who is formless, eternal, and beyond human understanding. This God is not male or female and is present in everyone and everything. Sikhs do not worship idols, images, or multiple gods. Instead, they seek to connect with God through devotion, meditation, and righteous action. While Sikhism arose in a region heavily influenced by Hinduism and Islam, it maintains a distinct belief in a single, universal divine presence. Art is spiritual, whether in beadwork, masks, pottery, or tattoos. Every symbol has meaning. Every pattern tells a story. Modern indigenous religions. Today, indigenous spirituality is alive, growing, and adapting, often in the face of ongoing threats like land loss, environmental harm, and cultural erasure. Many Native American communities in the U.S. are reviving languages, dances, and ceremonies once banned. African diasporic religions like Santeria, Candomblé, and Vodou have flourished across the Americas, blending traditional African beliefs with Christianity to survive colonialism. Young indigenous leaders are using social media, music, and education to reconnect with ancestral traditions and fight for cultural sovereignty. At the same time, more non-indigenous people are learning from these teachings, especially about ecology, sacred balance, and community wisdom. Indigenous religions are not relics of the past. They are living, breathing spiritual systems that hold deep truths about humanity's connection to the earth, to each other, and to the unseen. In a world facing ecological crisis, disconnection, and cultural fragmentation, indigenous wisdom reminds us that we belong to the land, not the other way around, and that every life is sacred. Their stories deserve not just to be told, but to be honored, protected, and heard. Rejection of superstition and ritualism. Sikhism encourages a direct connection to God, not through rituals or intermediaries. Major texts. The main scripture of Sikhism is the Guru Granth Sahib. It's not just a holy book. Sikhs treat it as their eternal guru. It contains hymns, poetry, and teachings of the Sikh gurus and other saints from various faiths, written in multiple languages, including Punjabi, Sanskrit, and Persian. The Guru Granth Sahib focuses on love, devotion, moral living, and the unity of all humanity. In Sikh temples, or gurdwaras, the text is placed on a throne under a canopy and is read aloud with great respect. Another important text is the Dasam Granth, which contains writings attributed to Guru Gobind Singh. Gods and deities. Sikhism believes in only one God, who is formless, eternal, and beyond human understanding. This God is not male or female and is present in everyone and everything. Sikhs do not worship idols, images, or multiple gods. Instead, they seek to connect with God through devotion, meditation, and righteous action. While Sikhism arose in a region heavily influenced by Hinduism and Islam, it maintains a distinct belief in a single, universal divine presence. Practices and rituals. Sikhism emphasizes simple, meaningful practices rather than rituals. Key practices include Naam Simran, meditating on and repeating God's name; Kirtan, singing devotional hymns; reading the Guru Granth Sahib, both at home and in the Gurdwara; Seva, volunteering time and resources to help others. Initiated Sikhs, Khalsa, follow the 5 Ks, articles of faith that include Kesh, uncut hair kara, a steel bracelet; Kanga, a wooden comb; Kachera, cotton undergarments; Kirpan, a ceremonial sword. These are symbols of devotion, discipline, and identity. Festival Sikhs celebrate several important festivals throughout the year. Vaisakhi, April, marks the founding of the Khalsa in 1699. It's both a religious and cultural celebration. Gurpurabs, celebrations of the birth and death anniversaries of the Sikh gurus, especially Guru Nanak and Guru Gobind Singh. Bandi Chhor Divas coincides with the Hindu festival of Diwali but commemorates the release of Guru Hargobind Ji from prison. Festivals are marked by prayers, processions, music, community meals, and acts of service. Society and ethics. Sikh ethics are grounded in justice, humility, and compassion. Sikhs are taught to work hard and honestly share their earnings with those in need. Vanchakna, defend the rights of others. Treat all genders, races, and religions equally. Social justice is a key part of Sikh identity. Historically, Sikhs have stood up against oppression and continue to advocate for equality, education, and community upliftment today. The langar, or free community kitchen, found in every gurdwara, serves meals to anyone, regardless of background. It's a living expression of Sikh values, schools, and sects. While Sikhism is relatively unified, there are a few different interpretations and movements. Khalsa Sikhs, the orthodox tradition founded by Guru Gobind Singh. Nirankari and Namdari Sikhs, reformist movements with slightly different practices. Udasis and Sevapanthis, spiritual groups with ascetic elements. Despite these differences, most Sikhs follow the Guru Granth Sahib and share the same basic principles. Temples and art Sikh places of worship are called gurdwaras, meaning doorway to the Guru. They are open to all, regardless of religion, caste, or background. Inside, the Guru Granth Sahib is placed with great respect, and worship includes prayer, singing, and sharing meals. The most famous gurdwara is the Golden Temple in Amritsar, India. It's not only a spiritual center, but a symbol of Sikh hospitality, courage, and beauty. Sikh art features calligraphy, architecture, music, and martial traditions like Gatka, a spiritual form of self-defense. Modern Sikhism. Today, Sikhism continues to grow and evolve, with millions of Sikhs living outside India. In countries like the United States, Sikhs have established vibrant communities, gurdwaras, and cultural organizations. Many Sikhs are active in social justice, healthcare, military service, and education. The community is known for its spirit of seva, service, and resilience. Despite facing discrimination or misunderstanding, especially due to turbans and beards, Sikh Americans have worked to educate others about their faith, culture, and contributions. Sikhism today stands as a spiritual path of action, deeply rooted in compassion, identity, and equality. Sikhism is a unique and powerful faith that blends deep spirituality with real-world responsibility. Founded on the principles of oneness, service, and justice, it speaks to modern challenges with timeless wisdom. For American audiences, learning about Sikhism offers not just insight into another religion, but also lessons in unity, compassion, and courage. In a world that often feels divided, the Sikh message, recognize all humanity as one, has never been more relevant. Spiritism. Spiritism is a spiritual philosophy that combines science, ethics, and religion. It offers a unique perspective on life, death, and the purpose of human existence. Although less well known in the United States, Spiritism is widely practiced in countries like Brazil and parts of Europe. It promotes a belief in the immortality of the soul, communication with spirits, and moral development through reincarnation. This philosophy is not just about supernatural phenomena. It's about personal growth, compassion, and understanding the invisible forces that influence our lives. Spiritism invites people to explore the spiritual world while staying grounded in ethical living. History. Spiritism was codified in the mid-19th century by Allan Kardec, the pen name of French educator Hippolyte Léon Denisard Rivail. In the 1850s, spiritual phenomena like table turning, spirit rapping, and mediumship were popular in Europe and America. Kardec took a rational, scientific approach to these events, compiling information from various spirit communications. In 1857, he published The Spirits Book, which laid the foundation of Spiritist thought. Kardec followed with several other works that organized Spiritism into a coherent doctrine. His approach was revolutionary, blending science, philosophy, and morality in the study of the spiritual world. Spiritism spread rapidly, especially in Brazil, where it became deeply rooted in culture, health practices, and social work. Today, Brazil is home to the largest Spiritist population in the world. Core beliefs. At the heart of Spiritism are a few essential beliefs. God exists, a supreme intelligence and the cause of all things. The soul is immortal and survives the death of the body. Reincarnation is a key process for spiritual growth and moral improvement. Spirits, the souls of those who have passed, can communicate with the living, offering guidance or asking for help. Moral progress is the ultimate goal of human life, and every action has consequences in this life or the next. Free will and personal responsibility play central roles in shaping one's destiny. Unlike many religions, Spiritism doesn't require dogma, ritual, or conversion. It's often described as a spiritual science that helps people understand the invisible world and their place within it. Major texts. The foundational texts of Spiritism were written by Allan Kardec and include The Spirit's Book, 1857, the cornerstone of Spiritist doctrine, structured as questions and answers received from spirits through mediums. The Medium's Book explains how spiritual communication works and how to develop mediumship responsibly. The Gospel according to Spiritism reinterprets the moral teachings of Jesus from a Spiritist perspective. Heaven and Hell and the Genesis further expand Spiritist philosophy and spiritual cosmology. These works are considered instructional, not sacred. Spiritists value reason and personal experience when studying these texts. Gods and deities. Spiritism is monotheistic. It teaches belief in one God, who is eternal, all-knowing, and supremely just. However, God is not personified or given a human form. Instead, God is seen as the universal intelligence behind all creation. Spiritism does not include worship of gods, saints, or deities. Instead, it recognizes a vast hierarchy of spirits, from highly evolved beings who guide and protect humanity, to troubled or ignorant spirits who may cause confusion. The emphasis is on personal spiritual connection and moral improvement, not divine intervention or salvation by grace. Practices and rituals. Spiritism doesn't have formal rituals, priests, or temples in the traditional sense. Its practices are simple and focused on inner transformation, spiritual study, and charitable work. Key practices include mediumship, communication with spirits through trained individuals, always with ethical purpose, prayer and meditation, tools for spiritual alignment and connection, study sessions, group reading, and discussion of Spiritist texts. Passes, a practice where spiritual energy is transferred to help balance someone's physical or emotional state. Charity and service, considered essential for spiritual growth. Everything is done with humility, and there is a strong warning against using spiritual powers for personal gain. Festivals. Spiritism does not have traditional religious holidays or festivals. However, Spiritist centers may host public lectures, seminars, and community service events to commemorate important dates like Allan Kardec's birthday, October 3rd. Publication of the Spirit's Book, April 18th. These occasions are focused on education and reflection, rather than celebration or ceremony. Because Spiritism encourages respect for all religions, many Spiritists also honor other religious or cultural holidays, especially in multicultural societies. Society and ethics. Ethical living is central to Spiritist belief. Followers are encouraged to practice forgiveness, compassion, and humility. Avoid hatred, vengeance, and materialism. Help those in need, physically, emotionally, or spiritually. Accept life's challenges as opportunities for growth. Spiritism teaches that we are all responsible for our own spiritual evolution. Social justice, equality, and charity are natural expressions of this belief. In Brazil, many Spiritist groups run free health clinics, orphanages, food banks, and counseling services. The idea is that spiritual growth must be matched by moral action. Schools and sects. Spiritism, as codified by Allan Kardec, is distinct from spiritualism or other mystical movements. However, there are different approaches within the broader Spiritist community. Kardecist Spiritism follows the teachings of Allan Kardec strictly. Christian Spiritism emphasizes Jesus' teachings more directly. Afro-Brazilian traditions. Some practices blend Spiritist ideas with African religious elements, though this is separate from formal Spiritism. Still, there's no centralized church or formal hierarchy. Each Spiritist center operates independently, united by the core philosophy. Temples and art spiritist gatherings happen in spiritist centers, not temples or churches. These centers are typically modest buildings with meeting rooms, libraries, and healing spaces. There's no altar, no statues, and no formal worship service. Art in Spiritism is often didactic and inspirational, featuring depictions of spiritual planes, spirit guides, or symbolic representations of virtue. However, visual art is not a major focus. Spiritist literature, music, and film are more widely used to express ideas and teach concepts. Modern Spiritism. Today, Spiritism is practiced in over 30 countries, with the largest presence in Brazil, where it's considered a mainstream spiritual path. Millions of Brazilians turn to Spiritism for comfort, healing, and guidance, often in combination with their Catholic heritage. In the U.S., Spiritism has a small but growing presence, mostly among Brazilian and Hispanic communities. Spiritist centers can be found in cities like Miami, New York, and Los Angeles. Modern Spiritism emphasizes scientific inquiry, spiritual health, and personal responsibility. It aligns well with modern concerns about mental health, ethical living, and global interconnectedness. Spiritism offers a compelling blend of spiritual exploration and ethical living. It teaches that life doesn't end at death, that our actions have consequences, and that we are all evolving souls on a journey toward greater love and wisdom. For American audiences, Spiritism provides a bridge between science, spirituality, and moral philosophy. It doesn't ask for blind faith, just an open mind and a willingness to grow. In a world seeking deeper meaning and connection, Spiritism quietly offers a message of hope, responsibility, and universal brotherhood. Judaism. Judaism is one of the oldest monotheistic religions in the world. It's not just a faith, it's a culture, an identity, and a way of life. Practiced by millions globally, Judaism has deeply influenced Western ethics, law, and spiritual thought. For many American viewers, Judaism may seem familiar, yet still holds rich layers of tradition and belief that go far beyond holidays and historical events. At its heart, Judaism is about a covenant, a sacred relationship between God and the Jewish people, grounded in law, memory, and moral responsibility. History. Judaism began over 3,000 years ago in the ancient Near East with the biblical figure Abraham, considered the first patriarch. According to Jewish tradition, God made a covenant with Abraham, promising to make his descendants a great nation. That promise was passed down to Isaac, Jacob, and eventually to the 12 tribes of Israel. A key event in Jewish history is the Exodus, when Moses led the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt and received the Torah on Mount Sinai. This became the foundation of Jewish law and identity. Over time, the Israelites established a kingdom, built the first and second temples in Jerusalem, and experienced conquests, exiles, and dispersions. After the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, Judaism transitioned from temple-based worship to a religion centered on study, prayer, and community, leading to the rise of Rabbinic Judaism, which continues today. Core beliefs. Judaism teaches that there is one God, who is eternal, all-knowing, and involved in the world. God created the universe and gave humans free will. Jewish belief focuses less on what happens after death and more on living ethically in this life. Central to Jewish thought is the idea of being the chosen people. This doesn't mean superiority, but a responsibility to follow God's commandments and be a moral example to others. Another key belief is tikkun olam, or repairing the world. Jews are called to promote justice, peace, and compassion, not just for themselves, but for all humanity. Major texts. The most sacred text in Judaism is the Torah, which includes the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible. It contains the laws, stories, and teachings given to Moses. Beyond the Torah, the Tanakh, what Christians call the Old Testament, includes the prophets, Nevi'im, and the writings, Ketuvim, historical accounts, poetry, wisdom literature, and more. The Talmud is another central text. It's a vast collection of rabbinic debates and interpretations about how to apply Torah law to daily life. Jewish study is highly intellectual, and questioning is not only allowed but encouraged. Gods and deities. Judaism is strictly monotheistic. There is only one God who cannot be divided into parts or represented in images. God is both personal and transcendent, involved in human affairs, but beyond full human understanding. There are no saints, demigods, or spiritual intermediaries in Judaism. Prayers are directed only to God, and Jewish theology strongly rejects idolatry or worship of any physical object. Practices and rituals. Jewish life is rich with rituals, many of which happen in the home and revolve around the Sabbath, Shabbat, dietary laws, and life cycle events. Shabbat. From Friday evening to Saturday evening, Jews observe a day of rest, prayer, and family. Kashrut. Jewish dietary laws include eating only kosher foods, no pork or shellfish, and no mixing meat and dairy. Life cycle rituals. These include Brit Milah, circumcision, bar, bat mitzvahs, coming of age, weddings, and mourning rituals like sitting Shiva. Prayer is also important. Jews pray 3 times a day, often using a prayer book, Siddur, and wear ritual items like the talit, prayer shawl, and tefillin, phylacteries, during weekday morning services. Festivals. Jewish festivals are based on both the Torah calendar and historical events. Some of the major ones include Passover, Pesach, commemorates the Exodus from Egypt. Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, a time of reflection. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, the holiest day of the year. Hanukkah, celebrates the rededication of the temple and the miracle of the oil. Sukkot, Purim, and Shavuot, each with unique stories, customs, and foods. Jewish holidays often involve family meals, symbolic foods, prayers, and storytelling, helping to pass down tradition from generation to generation. Society and ethics are central to Judaism. The religion emphasizes justice, tzedek, kindness, chesed, and truth. Jewish law, or halakha, guides behavior in all areas of life, business, family, health, and community. There is a strong emphasis on education, charity, and community responsibility. Helping the poor, visiting the sick, and welcoming strangers are all religious obligations. Judaism values debate and diversity of thought, encouraging followers to wrestle with moral questions and make thoughtful, ethical choices. Schools and sects Judaism includes several major branches, especially in the United States. Orthodox Judaism maintains traditional beliefs and strict adherence to Jewish law. Conservative Judaism balances tradition with modern interpretation. Reform Judaism emphasizes individual choice, ethics, and modern values. Reconstructionist Judaism sees Judaism as an evolving civilization, focusing on culture and community over doctrine. There are also secular or cultural Jews who identify with Jewish heritage without religious practice. Despite differences, all branches share a commitment to Jewish identity, memory, and values. Temples and art synagogues are Jewish houses of worship and study. Inside, you'll find an ark, Aron Kodesh, that holds the Torah scrolls, and often a bima, a raised platform for reading the Torah. Jewish art avoids imagery of God, but includes beautiful calligraphy, symbolic objects, and ritual items like menorahs, mezuzahs, and Torah ornaments. Jewish music, storytelling, and literature also play key roles in cultural and religious life. Modern Judaism. Today, Judaism is practiced worldwide, with major communities in Israel, the United States, Europe, and Latin America. The U.S. has the second largest Jewish population globally, and American Jews are active in religious, academic, cultural, and political life. Modern Judaism faces both opportunities and challenges, including interfaith dialogue, rising anti-Semitism, debates over identity, and how to maintain tradition in a secular world. Still, Jewish life remains vibrant, diverse, and committed to values that have lasted thousands of years: learning, justice, and hope. Judaism is more than a religion. It's a living tradition of memory, ethics, and resilience. It teaches that how we live, treat others, and care for the world matters deeply. Whether you're exploring faith, culture, or history, Judaism offers a rich and meaningful path grounded in wisdom, community, and moral action. From ancient stories to modern struggles, Judaism reminds us that each person has the power and the responsibility to help heal the world. Caodaism, also known as Caodaism, is a modern religion that blends elements of Eastern and Western spiritual traditions into a unified belief system. It originated in Vietnam in the early 20th century and offers a unique spiritual path for those seeking unity among the world's religions. With vibrant temples, colorful rituals, and a theology that includes figures like Jesus, Buddha, and Confucius, Caodaism might seem unusual to a Western audience, but at its core, it's about harmony, peace, and the oneness of all faiths. History: Caodaism was founded in 1926 in Tay Ninh, Vietnam, by a man named Ngo Văn Chieu, a civil servant who claimed to receive direct messages from the divine eye of God during spiritual seances. According to followers, God revealed a new religion meant to unify the world's major faiths: Buddhism, Taoism, Confucianism, Christianity, and Islam, into one universal path. The name Caodaism means high tower, a metaphor for the Supreme Being watching over humanity. The religion quickly gained followers, especially in southern Vietnam, and established its organizational structure, sacred texts, and elaborate rituals. During the Vietnam War, Caodaism played a significant social and political role. Although it faced suppression under communist rule after 1975, the religion still thrives today in Vietnam and among overseas Vietnamese communities. Core beliefs. At the heart of Caodaism is the belief in one God, referred to as the Supreme Being, or Cao Jai Tien Ong Jai Bo Tat Ma Hatat, a name that reflects a fusion of Taoist, Buddhist, and Confucian honorifics. This Supreme Being is the source of all creation, uniting all religious truths under one spiritual umbrella. Caodaism teaches that all religions come from the same divine origin and that their differences are due to the needs and cultures of different historical periods. The goal of human life is to return to God through self-purification, service to others, and spiritual development. Followers strive to escape the cycle of birth and death through moral living, prayer, and vegetarianism. Major texts. The scriptures of Caodaism are diverse and include texts dictated through divine seances. The primary sacred text is the Jai Thua Tem Ki Kin, which outlines the religion's theology and rituals. Other important writings include the Pháp Chan Truyen, which sets out the Church's governance structure, and various commentaries and messages received from spirits. Interestingly, Caodaism texts include guidance not just from religious figures, but from historical personalities like Victor Hugo, Sun Yat-sen, and Joan of Arc, all of whom are believed to have become spiritual guides after death. Gods and deities. Caodaism is monotheistic, but honors a divine pantheon of saints, prophets, and enlightened spirits. Alongside the Supreme Being, followers revere figures from many world religions, including Buddha, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, Confucius, and Laozi, as manifestations of God's universal wisdom. Saints in Caodaism include both spiritual and secular figures. For example, Victor Hugo, the French writer, is considered a saint because of his moral vision and his spiritual messages received during seances. This reflects Caodaism's belief that enlightenment and divine service can come from many paths. Practices and rituals. Caodaism rituals are highly visual and symbolic. Worship involves daily ceremonies held at temples, with the most important taking place at noon. During these rituals, followers wear color-coded robes, red for Confucianism, blue for Taoism, and yellow for Buddhism, reflecting the religion's blended nature. Prayers include chants, incense offerings, and hymns. Vegetarianism is strongly encouraged, both to purify the body and avoid causing harm. Many followers observe vegetarian diets at least 10 days per month, while more devout practitioners maintain it full-time. Meditation is also practiced, especially by higher-level adepts who focus on spiritual progress and inner enlightenment. Festivals Caodai has its own calendar and celebrates many festivals, especially those honoring spiritual leaders and saints. The most important celebration is the founding day of Caodai, held on November 19th, which marks the religion's official founding in 1926. Other festivals honor Buddha's birthday, Christmas, and the Lunar New Year, Tet, showing its inclusive spirit. During festivals, temples are decorated with lights and banners, and worshippers gather for rituals, feasts, and community events. Society and Ethics Caodai emphasizes morality, harmony, and spiritual evolution. Its ethical code promotes virtues like honesty, humility, charity, and nonviolence. Followers are expected to avoid harmful actions, such as lying, stealing, or taking life. Socially, the religion supports peace, education, and community service. In Vietnam, Caodai institutions have run schools, orphanages, and even hospitals. The religion sees men and women as spiritually equal, and while the higher clergy has traditionally been male, women can hold important religious roles. Schools and sects Caodai is structured like a church, with a hierarchical clergy that mirrors both Catholic and Confucian systems. At the top is the Pope, Jiao Tong, followed by cardinals, bishops, and priests. There are also female dignitaries and lay followers. While there is one primary branch based in Tainan, smaller sects have formed over time. These include the Banqin Jiao and Xiao Min, each with slight variations in practice or organization, but all recognize the Supreme Being and the core beliefs. Temples and art. Caodai temples are known for their bright colors, symbolic decorations, and elaborate architecture. The most famous is the Holy See in Tainan, a massive and colorful structure that serves as the religion's spiritual headquarters. The temples feature dragon columns, lotus motifs, and the divine eye, a symbol of God's all-seeing presence. Inside, the central hall is laid out for public ceremonies, with statues and images representing various saints and religious figures. Caodai art is deeply symbolic, mixing Eastern and Western iconography. It's visually stunning and reflects the religion's message of unity among faiths. Modern Caodai today. Caodai has an estimated 2 to 6 million followers, mostly in southern Vietnam, but also in communities around the world, including the United States, Australia, and France. Vietnamese American followers maintain temples and practice their faith while blending it with modern life. Although Caodai was once politically active, especially during the French colonial era and the Vietnam War, it now focuses more on spirituality and cultural preservation. The religion has adapted to the modern age while maintaining its rituals, ethics, and message of interfaith unity. Modern Caodai is a religion of peace, environmental respect, and spiritual progress, offering a universal path for those who seek a blend of tradition and tolerance. Caodai is a remarkable spiritual movement that seeks to unify the world's religions under one divine truth. With roots in Vietnam and branches around the world, it offers a unique blend of Eastern and Western beliefs, honoring saints, practicing rituals, and emphasizing ethical living. For U.S. viewers, Caodai may seem unfamiliar, but its message is deeply relevant, that truth can be found in many paths, and that peace, compassion, and spiritual growth are goals we can all share. Whether you're religious or just spiritually curious, Caodai invites you to see beyond division and move toward a world of unity and light. Shinto. Shinto is the traditional religion of Japan, rooted in nature, ancestors, and deep cultural heritage. It's not based on a single founder or holy book, but is more of a way of life, a collection of practices and beliefs that honor spirits called kami. Shinto is unique because it's deeply tied to Japan's land, people, and traditions, For many Japanese people, Shinto isn't something they believe in the way others believe in a religion. It's something they live. History. Shinto is one of the oldest spiritual traditions in the world, dating back to prehistoric Japan. It began as tribal nature worship and evolved into a set of rituals honoring kami, spiritual beings connected to natural elements like rivers, mountains, and the sun. Over time, as Japan became a unified state, Shinto practices were formalized to support the emperor's authority. During the 6th century, Buddhism entered Japan and coexisted with Shinto. Instead of replacing it, Buddhism and Shinto blended in many ways. For centuries, they were practiced side by side. In the late 1800s, during the Meiji Restoration, Shinto was separated from Buddhism and turned into the official state religion of Japan to promote national identity. After World War II, state Shinto was dissolved, and the religion returned to its more spiritual and cultural roots. Core beliefs. Shinto doesn't have a central theology or a defined God like in many Western religions. Instead, its core belief is in kami, spirits that exist in nature, objects, ancestors, and events. Kami are not gods in the Western sense. They can be elements of nature like the sun, Amaterasu, a powerful river, or the spirit of a deceased ancestor. Another key idea is purity. Shinto teaches that life is naturally good, but spiritual pollution or impurity can occur and must be cleansed through rituals. There's also a strong emphasis on harmony between humans, nature, and the spirit world. The goal is to live in balance with the kami and honor them with gratitude and respect. Major texts. Shinto has no single holy book, but it does have important ancient writings. The most significant are the Kojiki, records of ancient matters, and the Nihon Shoki, Chronicles of Japan, written in the 8th century. These texts include myths about the creation of Japan and its gods, especially the sun goddess Amaterasu, who is considered the ancestor of the imperial family. Another important text is the Engishiki, a book of rituals and prayers used at Shinto shrines. While these texts are valued, Shinto is more focused on tradition, ritual, and experience than on written doctrine. Gods and deities. In Shinto, there are millions of kami, from famous deities to local spirits. The most important is Amaterasu, the sun goddess and symbolic mother of the Japanese nation. Others include Susanoo, the storm god, and Amaterasu's brother, and Inari, the deity of rice and prosperity, often associated with foxes. Each kami has a personality and domain. Some protect families, others guard forests or rivers. Every shrine is dedicated to one or more kami, and people visit them to pray, offer respect, and ask for blessings. Practices and rituals. Shinto practice is centered around shrines, where people go to connect with the kami. When visiting a shrine, worshippers purify themselves by washing their hands and mouth at a temizuya, water basin. Then, they make offerings, bow, clap their hands to attract the kami's attention, and say silent prayers. There are also household rituals, such as placing small altars, called kamidana, in homes to honor family spirits. Life events like births, weddings, and building a new house often involve Shinto blessings. Importantly, death is handled more by Buddhism in Japan, as death is considered spiritually impure in Shinto. Festivals. Shinto festivals, called matsuri, are joyful celebrations that honor specific kami and bring communities together. These festivals often include parades, dancing, music, food stalls, and traditional clothing. One famous festival is Gion Matsuri in Kyoto, which has been held for over 1,000 years. Seasonal festivals, like New Year, Shogatsu, are also deeply Shinto in nature. Many Japanese people visit shrines during these holidays to pray for health, success, and protection in the coming year. Society and ethics. Shinto ethics focus more on living harmoniously than on strict rules. There's no concept of sin, like in some religions. Instead, right behavior is about showing respect, maintaining purity, honoring nature, and fulfilling your social duties. Important values include gratitude, sincerity, makoto, cleanliness, and loyalty. These ideals have deeply influenced Japanese culture, shaping how people interact with each other and with their environment. Shinto has no clergy that tells people what to believe. Instead, it teaches through example, ritual, and community involvement. Schools and sects. While Shinto doesn't have denominations like Christianity or Islam, there are different branches. The two main types are Shrine Shinto, which includes most of the shrines across Japan, and Sect Shinto, which formed religious groups during the 19th century and have specific teachings or leaders. Another form is Folk Shinto, which blends local traditions, superstitions, and family customs. Some of these practices involve ancestor worship or unique village ceremonies. Despite the differences, all forms of Shinto revolve around reverence for the kami, rituals of purification, and harmony with nature, temples, and art. Shinto buildings are called shrines, not temples, which are used for Buddhism. Shinto shrines are marked by torii gates, often painted bright red, which represent the entrance to a sacred space. The architecture is simple and made with natural materials like wood and stone. Inside the shrine, there is usually a main hall where the kami is enshrined, though it is not usually visible to the public. Offerings like rice, salt, and sake are placed on altars to honor the spirit. Shinto art includes ritual masks, traditional clothing, like white robes and red sashes, paper streamers, shide, and sacred music called kagura. The style is elegant, minimalist, and deeply symbolic. Modern Shinto today. Shinto is still a major part of Japanese life. Even if many Japanese people don't identify as religious, it's often practiced alongside Buddhism and shows up in everyday rituals like weddings, festivals, and holiday visits to shrines. There are over 80,000 Shinto shrines across Japan, and Shinto priests continue to lead ceremonies and maintain sacred traditions. Outside Japan, small Shinto communities exist, especially where Japanese immigrants have settled. In modern times, Shinto has faced challenges, including urbanization and secularism, but its values of harmony with nature and respect for tradition continue to inspire both religious and non-religious people around the world. Shinto is a deeply rooted, living tradition that reflects Japan's connection to nature, ancestors, and community. It doesn't demand strict beliefs, but encourages people to live in harmony with the world around them. For American audiences, Shinto offers a refreshing perspective, a spirituality that's less about doctrine and more about daily life, reverence, and balance. In a world that often feels chaotic, Shinto's gentle focus on purity, gratitude, and respect offers a quiet, enduring kind of peace. Unitarian Universalism. Unitarian Universalism, often called UU, is a liberal, inclusive, religious movement that emphasizes individual spiritual growth, community, and ethical living. It's not tied to one book, God, or dogma. Instead, it brings together people from many beliefs, including atheists, agnostics, Christians, Buddhists, and others, who share a common commitment to values like justice, compassion, and truth-seeking. In the U.S., Unitarian Universalism offers a spiritual home for people looking for meaning without rigid rules. History. Unitarian Universalism grew out of two separate traditions, Unitarianism and Universalism, both of which began in Christianity but challenged traditional doctrines. Unitarianism rejected the idea of the Trinity and emphasized the oneness of God and the importance of reason in religion. Universalism focused on the belief that all souls would ultimately be saved, rejecting the concept of eternal damnation. In the United States, both movements developed in the 18th and 19th centuries, often promoting progressive causes like abolition, women's rights, and education reform. By the mid-20th century, the two groups realized they had more in common than not, and in 1961 they merged to form the Unitarian Universalist Association, UUA. Since then, Unitarian Universalism has continued to evolve as a pluralistic and open-minded spiritual community. Core beliefs. Unitarian Universalism doesn't ask members to accept any specific set of religious beliefs. Instead, it encourages people to search for truth and meaning in their own way. What holds the community together is a set of shared values, not shared dogma. At the center of UU philosophy are 7 core principles, including the inherent worth and dignity of every person, justice and compassion in human relations, and respect for the interdependent web of all existence. Members are encouraged to draw wisdom from many sources: science, philosophy, world religions, personal experience, and social justice movements. UU emphasizes freedom of belief, but also responsibility to live ethically, to grow spiritually, and to help build a better world. Major texts. There is no single holy book in Unitarian Universalism. Instead, UUs are encouraged to explore a wide range of writings, sacred and secular. People might read the Bible, Buddhist sutras, poetry, philosophy, scientific writings, or even contemporary literature to find insight and inspiration. The Unitarian Universalist Association publishes hymnals and educational materials, including Singing the Living Tradition and Sources of Our Faith. But these are seen as tools, not sacred texts. The emphasis is on learning, questioning, and growing, rather than obeying written commandments. Gods and deities. Unitarian Universalism leaves belief in God, or the lack of it, up to the individual. Some UUs believe in a personal or creative force, others in nature or love as divine, and many identify as atheist, agnostic, or humanist. Because UU congregations are inclusive, services often use language that is broad and poetic rather than doctrinal. You might hear words like spirit of life or mystery beyond naming, which allow room for a wide range of spiritual beliefs and non-beliefs to coexist peacefully. In UU, what matters isn't whether you believe in God, but how you live your values and how you treat others. Practices and rituals. Unitarian Universalist congregations hold Sunday services, but these don't follow a fixed liturgy like in traditional churches. Services may include music, readings, meditation, storytelling, and sermons, but the content varies widely. The focus is on shared reflection and growth, not worship of a deity. Other rituals include child dedications, coming-of-age ceremonies, weddings, and memorial services, often personalized to reflect the beliefs of those involved. Instead of baptism or communion, UUs might have a water communion or flower communion that celebrates community and nature. Personal spiritual practices are encouraged and might include prayer, meditation, journaling, activism, or time in nature, whatever helps the individual connect to something meaningful. Festivals. Unitarian Universalism doesn't have its own set of religious holidays, but it often embraces holidays from many traditions. A UU service might celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, Diwali, Ramadan, or Earth Day, depending on the interests of the congregation. Some UU communities mark special events like the winter solstice, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, or Pride Month with services and celebrations. These observances reflect UU values, justice, peace, interfaith respect, and the celebration of diversity. The biggest holiday for many UUs is General Assembly, an annual national gathering of UU congregations to share ideas, vote on social issues, and build community. Society and ethics. Social justice is at the heart of Unitarian Universalism. UUs are known for their activism in causes like civil rights, environmental protection, LGBTQ+ rights, racial justice, and immigration reform. Ethical living is not just a personal goal, but a communal responsibility. The UU principle of justice, equity, and compassion in human relations inspires members to speak out, march, vote, and volunteer. Ethics aren't rooted in fear of punishment or reward, but in the belief that every person matters and the world can be made better through love and action. U.S. ethics emphasize inclusivity, personal integrity, and social responsibility. Schools and sects. Unitarian Universalism is not divided into sects or denominations. The Unitarian Universalist Association, UUA, serves as the main organizational body in the U.S., coordinating resources and guiding values, but each local congregation is self-governing. Some UU congregations lean more humanist or secular, while others may be more spiritually focused or interfaith-oriented. The flexibility of UU allows it to adapt to the needs of each community without enforcing uniformity. The common thread is the commitment to the 7 principles, free thought, and shared respect. Temples and art. UU congregations typically meet in church-like buildings, but the design can be modern or traditional. What matters most is the people and the purpose, not the architecture. Inside, you may find candles, symbols from many faiths, banners promoting justice, or abstract art, each reflecting the values of that community. Art and music are essential in many UU congregations. Services may feature poetry readings, piano, choral music, folk songs, or even drumming. Creative expression is encouraged as a way to explore and share spiritual meaning. Modern Unitarian Universalism. Today, there are about 1,000 UU congregations in the U.S., with around 150,000 members, and many more who identify with UU values but don't attend regularly. The faith continues to grow, especially among those who have left traditional religions but still seek community, ethics, and spiritual depth. UU has been active in addressing modern issues like climate change, racial justice, reproductive rights, and trans-inclusion. The movement continues to evolve, pushing itself to be more inclusive, especially toward people of color, indigenous communities, and younger generations. Unitarian Universalism is uniquely American in spirit, born from freedom, shaped by diversity, and committed to justice and community. Unitarian Universalism is a religion for seekers. It offers no single answer to life's big questions, but it welcomes all who are willing to ask them with honesty, compassion, and courage. Whether you're a theist, atheist, or somewhere in between, UU invites you into a spiritual community built on values, not creeds. In a world often divided by belief, Unitarian Universalism shows that it's possible to come together, not because we all agree, but because we care, listen, and grow together. Rastafarianism. Rastafarianism, also known simply as Rastafari, is more than a religion. It's a way of life, a spiritual and cultural movement with deep roots in Jamaica and Africa. Often associated with reggae music and dreadlocks, Rastafari is a powerful belief system that centers on Black liberation, African identity, and a deep connection with God, whom they call Jah. For many Rastas, their faith is not about church attendance, but about how they live, eat, dress, and resist oppression. It challenges Western norms while uplifting African heritage and dignity. History. Rastafarianism began in Jamaica in the 1930s, during a time of poverty, colonial rule, and racial injustice. The movement was inspired by the crowning of Haile Selassie I, Emperor of Ethiopia, in 1930. Many saw him as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, a black messiah who would restore African people to greatness. His real name was Rastafari, and the religion takes its name from his title. Key figures in the rise of Rastafari include Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican political leader and activist who preached African pride and Pan-African unity. Although Garvey never identified as Rastafarian, his ideas were deeply influential. As Rastafari spread, it became a voice for black empowerment and resistance to colonial systems. By the 1970s, reggae legend Bob Marley had helped bring Rasta beliefs to global audiences through music. Core beliefs. At the heart of Rastafari is the belief that Haile Selassie is a divine figure, sometimes seen as the second coming of Christ or as a direct manifestation of God, Jah. Rastas reject the idea of a distant, white God, and instead see Jah as living within all people, especially those of African descent. Rastafarians also believe in the concept of Babylon, a term used to describe Western society, especially systems of oppression, racism, materialism, and colonialism. Rastas aim to chant down Babylon, or resist its influence through spiritual living, community, and natural lifestyles. Another key belief is repatriation, or the spiritual and sometimes literal return to Africa. Many Rastas view Ethiopia as their true homeland and a promised land for descendants of enslaved Africans. Major texts: Rastafarianism doesn't have a single holy book, but many Rastas turn to the Bible, especially the Old Testament, for wisdom and inspiration. However, they read it through a unique lens, often emphasizing stories of oppression, liberation, and African roots. Other influential texts include Marcus Garvey's speeches and writings, the Kabra Nagast, an Ethiopian holy book, and Rastafarian hymns and poetry. Interpretations vary among groups, and many Rastas rely more on oral tradition, music, and reasoning sessions, group discussions, than on formal scriptures. Gods and deities. Rastas believe in one God, Yah, who is both immanent and transcendent. Yah is not seen as separate from the world, but as living within all righteous people. Haile Selassie is considered by many as either the incarnation of Yah or a divine prophet. There are no saints, angels, or pantheons of deities in traditional Rastafari. Worship is often individual or communal, but does not involve idol worship or religious icons. Practices and rituals. Rastafari life emphasizes natural living, spiritual connection, and resistance to oppression. Practices include Ital diet, a mostly vegetarian or vegan diet that avoids processed foods, salt, alcohol, and sometimes even dairy. The goal is to stay pure and in harmony with nature. Dreadlocks, worn as a spiritual expression and a biblical symbol based on the Nazirite vow in the Bible. Dreadlocks also represent the Lion of Judah and natural living. Reasoning sessions, gatherings where Rastas discuss spiritual, political, and community topics. These sessions can be casual but are deeply meaningful. Ganja, cannabis. Considered a sacred herb, ganja is used ritually to open the mind, aid meditation, and promote unity, not for recreation. Rastas may pray daily, chant psalms, or use drums and music to connect with Yah. Festivals. Rastafarian festivals celebrate key moments in their spiritual and cultural history. Some of the most important include Grunation Day, April 21st, marks Haile Selassie's 1966 visit to Jamaica, a sacred moment in Rasta history. Ethiopian New Year, Enkutatash, celebrated in September to honor Ethiopia's calendar and cultural ties. Marcus Garvey Day, August 17th, honors the birth of Garvey and his vision of black unity. Coronation Day, November 2nd, celebrates the day Haile Selassie was crowned emperor in 1930. These festivals often include music, drumming, prayer, and feasting in community. Society and ethics. Rastafari promotes peace, love, and community, but also strong resistance to systems of injustice. Rastas are often critical of consumerism, racism, and political corruption. Their ethical code emphasizes living in harmony with nature, equality and dignity for all people, respect for women, although traditional gender roles may still be present in some circles, honesty, humility, and spiritual growth. Rastafarianism supports freedom from oppression, both personal and collective. It's a movement that grew out of pain and resistance, but radiates hope and strength. Schools and sects. Rastafari is not a formal, centralized religion, so there are no churches or official denominations. However, there are different mansions, or branches of Rastafari, each with slightly different beliefs and practices. Nyabingi, the oldest and most traditional group, focusing on chanting, drumming, and resistance to oppression. Bobo Ashanti, known for strict rules, wearing turbans and robes, and a strong emphasis on priesthood and gender roles. 12 Tribes of Israel, one of the most liberal groups, allowing more personal freedom and including people from diverse backgrounds. Despite differences, all groups uphold Haile Selassie as a central figure and resist Babylon's influence. Temples and Art Rastafari doesn't use formal temples. Instead, gatherings happen in community centers, homes, or open natural spaces. Sacred space is wherever Rastas come together, in the name of Jah. Art plays a huge role in expressing Rasta beliefs. This includes reggae music, especially from artists like Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Burning Spear colors, red, blood of martyrs, green, land of Africa, gold, wealth and prosperity, and black, African people, Lion of Judah, a key symbol representing strength, pride, and Haile Selassie murals, paintings, and clothing that reflect African identity, freedom, and spiritual vision. Modern Rastafarianism. Today, Rastafarianism continues to influence culture and music worldwide. While its roots are in Jamaica, you'll find Rasta communities in the US, UK, Africa, the Caribbean, and beyond. Some Rastas are strict, following the Atal diet and avoiding modern technology, while others take a more flexible approach. In the US, Rastafari is often seen as a cultural identity as much as a spiritual one. It resonates with people who seek liberation, consciousness, and unity. Although not a mainstream religion, it has carved out a strong, passionate presence, especially in music, social justice movements, and youth culture. Rastafarianism is a faith rooted in identity, resistance, and love. It speaks to the struggle for freedom and dignity, especially for people of African descent. But its message is universal, calling for justice, unity, and connection with the divine. It's not about dogma or rituals in a traditional sense. It's about how you live, how you think, and how you treat others. In a world searching for meaning, Rastafari offers a powerful vision of liberation through spirit, culture, and truth.